I'm Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., and this is how to get your money right. We are so pleased to have on this special edition of How to Get Your Money Right, Sanders Adu. You're the Senior Vice President for Government Relations at Wells Fargo Bank. And we have Samantha Tweedy, the CEO of the Black Economic Alliance. Welcome to How to Get Your Money Right.
Thank you, Dr. Chavis. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with Samantha Tweedy, my Duke classmate, by the way.
Oh, really? And, you know, I'm a Duke grad, so this is a Duke interview
reunion.
here.
Reunion.
Exactly. So I'm going to start with you, Sanders, and I'll go to Samantha.
Sure.
The whole issue of financial literacy in Black America, but in America in general. Why is it that they don't just teach financial literacy in elementary school, high schools, even before you get to college? Everybody knows having vital financial literacy, but it seems not to be not just a policy priority, but a society priority.
Dr. That's a great question. I mean, financial literacy, just like civic engagement we've seen from recent months, is extremely important.
Yes.
And at Wells Fargo, we're all about empowering the communities where we live, work, and play. And the foundation of that is financial education and financial literacy, and making sure that people at all ages, so from elementary school to midlife to even senior citizens, understand that financial literacy, financial education is critical to all of the decisions you make for your family and building generational wealth. We're going to get into the work, wages, and wealth agenda. That's really the foundation of it.
So, Samantha Tweedy, I know that you have a great supportive relationship between the Black Economic Alliance and Wells Fargo. Tell us about this alliance. How did it emerge?
Absolutely. Well, first, it's good to be on with you both. And we're very lucky to be in partnership with the Wells Fargo Foundation around our work, wages, and wealth agenda, as Sanders laid out. So the Black Economic Alliance, we're a coalition of Black business leaders who came together with a singular purpose of advancing work, wages, and wealth across the entire Black community. And so what we do is we look for the data-driven solutions that we know will move the needle on Black economic prosperity and opportunity and wealth building. And then we dive deeply into those, working across the corporate sector and government on the policy front, and then also on the ground programs that we know have the opportunity to make the most difference. And that's where this partnership really was seeded. One of our founders and board chairs, Tony Coles, had a direct conversation with Wells Fargo's CEO, Charlie Scharf, in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, when we all were asking, what more can we do? And out of that conversation came a realization that there was shared opportunity, interest, priority, and ability to move mountains in the space of Black entrepreneurship, which, as we know, is one of the key drivers of Black generational wealth building. And so out of that conversation, the vision for the BEA Entrepreneurs Venture Fund was born, which will be a $50 million venture fund investing directly in Black entrepreneurs. And importantly, to be a model that stands for the entire field of what it looks like to support Black entrepreneurs on that journey to wealth building for themselves, their family, and their community. And what I'll say is from there, the partnership has only grown and expanded, as good partnerships always do. So we're very thankful.
It is really in all of our interests, and certainly as a bank, we don't do well if the economy doesn't do well. The venture fund is really designed to help firms grow and scale. We know that Black businesses create most of the jobs in our community and most of the GDP that helps the entire United States.
There are a lot of people who talk about supporting Black America, but it seems like Wells Fargo is putting its money where its stated objectives are. And I'm just going to ask you, Sanders, there are a lot of big banks in America.
Yeah.
But why is Wells Fargo leading this charge? What made you decide to work with the Black Economic Alliance, and you appear to be leading other. I hope other banks will follow your lead.
We hope so too. And we're leading the charge really, Dr. Chase, because look, our customers, we are from the community. Our customers are increasingly diverse. Black, Hispanic, Native American. We invest in all of these areas, including Asian and Pacific American as well. And for the venture fund, I'll just mention one thing. One thing that's really important, it's great to have startup capital, but the venture fund is really designed to help firms grow and scale. We know that Black businesses create most of the jobs in our community and most of the GDP that helps the entire United States. So the venture fund was really a no-brainer for us, and our CEO, Charlie Sharp, is fully committed. In fact, he was part of the Solution Summit that Black Economic Alliance had in New York last spring, and talked really about this fund, but also our greater commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really the heart of making sure that the economy works for everyone and that we all do better if everyone does better.
Man, that's good news for our community because, as you know, we live in a national environment where there's some retrenchment, there's some backing away. Samantha used the term clawback. But I want to ask you, Samantha and Sanders, in the whole landscape right now, do you find that the whole question of entrepreneurship, is that a growing ambition, a growing inspiration in our communities today? Samantha, what's the trend?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a growing interest and driver of economic prosperity in our community. And certainly coming out of COVID, where we saw Black women as the foremost population starting new businesses, what we've seen is that our community understands that being able to build businesses where we can serve our communities, Black folks hire more Black folks than other companies do, right? So to create jobs and good wages and ultimately wealth for our community, that is something that we need to own. And I think, in this moment that you're raising for us, Dr. Chavis, where there is, among some parts of our society, and I will say it as a small, vocal, but well-funded and loud minority, of folks who are trying to turn back the clock on this work. What is very important for all of us to know and to communicate is that Black entrepreneurship, like Black wealth building more broadly, is not zero sum, right? That building more Black businesses does not take anything away from anyone else.
Exactly.
The same way that building more Black wealth doesn't take anything away from other folks. In fact, because of the systemic issues that have stood in the way of Black entrepreneurship and people of color building businesses, America has given up about 1.1 million businesses owned by people of color. And those potential businesses are calculated to produce 9 million more jobs and about 300 billion in income for the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy, right? Not the Black economy, not the Black and brown economy. And so we are at a point where it's really important to see that this influx and this growth of Black business and entrepreneurs is obviously important for our community and also important for the entire U.S. community and economy.
Very good. Sanders, you've been with the Wells Fargo Bank a long time. How many years?
14 years.
And now you're a senior vice president for government relations.
Yes.
And I know about your experience on Capitol Hill, you're well experienced. How do you see the public policymakers moving in the direction that would establish further public policy that would help enable Black wealth building, enable increased financial literacy in America? From Capitol Hill, what do you detect?
It's a good question, Trace. I wanted to go back and address one point about kind of COVID and the recovery. One thing I did want to mention is that Wells Fargo, after COVID, created a $420 million Open for Business Fund. $420 million. We took the gross processing fees from the PPP program, and we turned it into a CDFI fund that went to hundreds of CDFIs around the country. It created over 336,000 businesses, 460 to 1,000 jobs. We just did an impact report, and 79% went to racially and ethnically diverse firms, which is your point about Black and brown entrepreneurship. 53% to women and 72% to LMI community. So we recognized many years ago that entrepreneurs of color are really the key to economic recovery. The Open for Business program has been a phenomenal success, again, partnering with CDFIs that are really in and of the community and helping. Now, to your policy question, one thing I think is really important, I think the Congressional Black Caucus has really been leading the way on this issue. I know that the work, wages, and wealth agenda that Samantha laid out in terms of Black Economic Alliance has been adopted by the Congressional Black Caucus. And the work, wages, and wealth is kind of the foundation to create wealth throughout the life cycle of the Black community. So starting out from things like child tax credits, funds for entrepreneurs, estate plans to help make sure that we pass on generational wealth. All these are at the forefront, and the Congressional Black Caucus has really been leading the way. And we, Wells Fargo, were proud to be part of their answer their call when they asked corporate America, what are you doing around DEI? We were one of hundreds of companies that responded, and they created the report that was released last September around companies committing to DEI, because really it is really in all of our interests. And certainly as a bank, we don't do well if the economy doesn't do well. So as a bank, we want to make sure all our communities are thriving. And one way to do that is to make sure that we, Wells Fargo, are committed to DEI in our company, including supplier diversity as well.
I think that's such an important point that from your knowledge and from your database experience, DEI has helped the economy, not hurt the economy, which some would argue.
Yes.
So Samantha, I know that the new chair of the Congressional Black Caucus is from Brooklyn. You're in Brooklyn. The Honorable Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, and then you have the Honorable Hakeem Jeffers, who is the House Minority Leader. You got two important, a brother and a sister in Brooklyn. So tell us about the relationship between the Congressional Black Caucus and with the House Minority Leader with the Black Economic Alliance.
Absolutely. So we spend a lot of our time at BEA working across sectors on that shared agenda, and the Congressional Black Caucus has been a major partner and focus for us. So as Sanders said, we were so pleased for the CBC to adopt our policy agenda, really whole cloth, and to bring resolutions forward in the House and Senate within weeks of our policy agenda's release to get the gears turning. And that policy agenda covers everything you'd imagine, from affordable housing to jobs and workforce development, equitable tax reform, and obviously entrepreneurship, and then is undergirded by voting rights, which we know none of this can happen if we are not able to move the needle at the ballot box. And so what we have been so pleased to see is that Jeffries and Congresswoman Clarke have been at the table the entire time and have really embraced this work, wages, wealth agenda as the forward-looking agenda of the Congressional Black Caucus. And so we anticipate that as we look ahead to the next Congress, that we will see concrete action coming out of a lot of the policy proposals that are embedded in that agenda.
Very good. Sanders, you mentioned you're CEO of Wells Fargo. Tell us a little something about your CEO and how he's come to be committed to Black entrepreneurship, Black wealth building, and contributes to how people can get their money right.
Absolutely. Well, first, it really starts at home. So when he came into Wells Fargo about 5 years ago, our senior leadership team was not very diverse. So he,
what's his name again?
Charlie Scharf. Charlie Scharf, our CEO of Wells Fargo. And he immediately brought in the best talent. And the best talent included an African-American woman who now runs our kind of chief diversity officer. She's the first Black woman on our operating committee in Wells Fargo's 158-year history. We have a brother that runs it's called Strategy Digital Innovation.
Wells Fargo is 158 years old.
Somewhere around that neighborhood, yes.
That's quite a
Yeah, we've
legacy.
been around since 1852, so I'm not doing the math right, but I know we're around since the gold rush.
I remember the stagecoach.
Absolutely.
Wells Fargo.
But we have a diverse leadership team of Black and Latino folks running major businesses, and once you have that perspective, it starts there. And he has, again, been committed to these issues. But not only have we invested in Black Economic Alliance, but we've invested in the National Urban League. We just started 2 years ago special purpose credit program, $150 million to make sure that Black and Hispanic folks can buy down their rates and their mortgages, because we know housing is the biggest wealth driver for most communities of color. We've been involved in, again, entrepreneurship.
Right.
We help fund the National Urban League's entrepreneurship centers. So it's
and you've made a major contribution to NAACP.
NAACP as well. You
got a great person. Everybody knows Gigi.
Gigi is my boss, and she is well known. But we're actually helping them build right up the street here in D.C. Their new national headquarters, right in 14th and U corridor.
We're in the Thurgood Marshall building.
Absolutely.
The new NAACP headquarters is going to be a couple of blocks.
A few blocks away. But again, all this is related. All this is connected, because if our community again does well, if leading nonprofits like your National Newspaper Public Association, NAACP, Urban League, our friends at Unidos and the Latino community, if they're doing well, then the economy does well, and then we all do well.
That combination of knowing that we know what works and that now our generation's job is to ensure that those with power, from Washington to Wall Street to boardrooms, to corporate suites across America, have those solutions at their fingertips so that all of our leaders are moving on those solutions.
Samantha, I know we have I want to get you before you go on answering the question. I think I know some of the answers, but I want to hear from the expert. You are our expert. Give us 3 steps on how to get your money right, particularly for young people. A lot of viewers are intergenerational, and I want to make sure they get the substance out of this particular edition of How to Get Your Money Right. So Samantha, could you just give me 3 short, succinct steps of how to get your money right?
Yes, but I'm going to go backwards to go forward for one moment, because I think there is a great example of the kind of partnership that Sanders was just alluding to, that takes us back full circle, actually, to where you started at Sanders. So if we take us back to 2020 and during the pandemic, where we saw just Black businesses, Black people, but Black businesses shouldering so much of the brunt of the pandemic and the economic downturn, the Black Economic Alliance worked closely with the NAACP and with the National Urban League to engage senators and leaders across the aisle to be able to create the bipartisan bill that brought $12 billion in investment to CDFIs and MDIs that were so important to Black entrepreneurs in that moment. The bill was actually dubbed the BEA bill by Senator Mark Warner because we were helpful in writing it and in advocating for it. And all those partners were around the table. So to think about what Sanders was describing as their work with CDFIs and MDIs at Wells Fargo, and how BEA in partnership with these legacy organizations were able to come together around a key solution that we knew would work to help continuing to drive Black entrepreneurship and Black wealth building, I think is a great microcosm of the kind of partnership that we all have day in and day out. So just wanted to share that as well. So, I'll leave it to the experts on the personal finance building. Since BEA, we are really focused on reshaping the systems and the structures that allow for our young people to be positioned to get their money right. But I'll say 3 things are important. So the first is, remember to keep your eye on the prize of wealth building. As a Black community, we have just been talked to and about, poverty and alleviation of poverty and just sustaining ourselves and our families for way too long. We need to be at a point in time where our eyes are on wealth building, and that we are encouraging and ensuring that all of the leaders, from the halls of Washington, to our corporate leaders, to also be focused on wealth building for the Black community as well. Wealth, in its simplest term, is owning more than you owe. And we have to be at a place in the Black community where that is no longer the exception, but is the rule. The second is to be very wide-eyed about the people who are around you, who can connect you to the expertise that is going to drive your career so that it is a wealth-generating career. And if that's entrepreneurship, I recommend that you get in touch with our Center for Black Entrepreneurship, which is a center that we've built in partnership with the legacy organization or schools, Spelman College and Morehouse College, to really pour into, invest in the next generation of Black entrepreneurs. And so whether it's questions about your credit score, whether it's questions about your business plan, whether it's questions around how you get the kind of mentorship from the business community to get there, the Center for Black Entrepreneurship is an important point of contact for anyone who is looking to lean into that from the next generation.
Samantha, is there a website? How do people get in touch with the Center for Black Economic?
They can go right to cbecenter.org to go directly to the Center for Black Entrepreneurship, or can come to blackeconomicalliance.org to get connected with BEA more broadly.
Very good.
And then And then the third piece is just to remember that we in our community have the fundamentals of what it looks like to come together as a community to build economic prosperity and wealth building right at our fingertips. And so whether that is local businesses that are right in your community, whether that is someone in your family has gone about and done this, that we have those fundamentals in-house, so to speak, in our community. And so as we go out and we get this education around entrepreneurship and around how to grow our finances and build our wealth, remember that so much of that is also right inside of us. And it's the marriage of those two that I think is what's going to bring us to the next level.
I think just having that example of young people who are innovative, who are, using kind of all the modern tools and technology to create their own stories and really blaze the entrepreneurial path, I think gives me a whole lot of hope.
Sanders, as the Senior Vice President of Government Relations, how would you commend or encourage all people, not just young people, to get their money right?
Well, to get your money right, I would say three things, really. And the first thing we talked about, which is financial education, financial literacy. I mean, you should start with that, understanding just how finances work. Also, your own finances. So get your free credit score, credit report, understand that if you have questions about it, Wells Fargo and other places have a lot of resources to help with that, nonprofits and CDFIs as well. So understand your own financial picture first. Secondly, if you're an entrepreneur, definitely hit the Center for Business Entrepreneurship with the BEA, as well as other nonprofits. And also, if you have a banker, talk to your banker. Many bankers, I think people are intimidated to come to banks and talk about their finances, especially your small business, if you have a lot of assets. Come to the bank, sit down, talk to your banker, make a plan, a short, medium, and long-term plan to grow your business over time with a banker at your side. I think that's a phenomenal way to go. Lastly, I'd say, think about the legacy you're leaving. So have an estate plan, have a will, have a trust, have a medical directive. I know that not only just for individuals, but for family farms or businesses, a lot of times Black folks don't have wills and trusts and estates. And then when Big Mama dies and the family farm is up for foreclosure, titles cloudy, people don't understand how their property rights. So I would say definitely make sure you have an estate plan. And Wells Fargo partner with many CDFIs around the country, nonprofits around kind of estate planning for the future. That's really the largest transfer of generational wealth, is when someone passes and you need that clear estate plan.
Is there a particular place that people can go to Wells Fargo website to get the information on estate planning, trust, wills? Because as you know, that's a major hurdle in many of our communities across the country.
It is. So I would just go to wellsfargo.com. You can then, in the search bar, you can search for any term you want. So, estate planning, wealth building. Just go on wellsfargo.com. You can do a search, and there'll be plenty of resources there for you.
Thank you. So Samantha, I always ask this question on how to get your money right. Given what you know, given what you've witnessed in terms of the opportunities and responsibilities to get on a path to wealth building in Black America. Today, Samantha, Tweedy, what gives you your greatest hope?
Well, I come from a long line of folks who have been fighting for racial and economic justice. And so it's really my grandparents' voice that are in my ears when I say this. What gives me hope is that it's working. We are seeing data come out of the Federal Reserve. We're seeing data come out of economists at Harvard that tell us that it's working, that there are so many solutions that we have identified that now that they are in play, that they are building the economic mobility and the wealth of our community. That said, and this is where my grandparents come in, we can't let up, right? We are still looking at housing disparities that are as wide as they were during Jim Crow. We're still, as Black people, at the losing end of a 6-to-1 racial wealth gap. And so that combination of knowing that we know what works and that now our generation's job is to ensure that those with power, from Washington to Wall Street to boardrooms, to corporate suites across America, have those solutions at their fingertips, and the wind beneath their back to move on those solutions is what our job is.
Right.
So we know what to do, and now it's about ensuring that we have the right levers of influence so that all of our leaders are moving on those solutions.
Very good, thank you. Same short question. Sanders Adu, what gives you your greatest hope when you talk about people getting their money right?
Gives me the greatest hope to get your money right is the fact that young people, I think, are excited about learning this issue, and also because of the social media channels, the way they communicate, information travels much more quickly. So if you have a small Black business in Brooklyn or South Central Los Angeles or east side of Oakland, that can be shared widely. And I think just having that example of young people who are innovative, who are using kind of all the modern tools of technology to create their own stories and really blaze the entrepreneurial path, I think gives me a whole lot of hope.
Great. Well, Sanders Adu, the main vice president of government relations at Wells Fargo, and Samantha Tweedy, the CEO of the Black Economic Alliance. Thank you both for being on How to Get Your Money Right.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Chavis.
Thank you so much.